Good morning, everybody. Oh, it looks like Sarah's still joining. Hi.
Hi. Oh, wait, let me turn
Hello.
my
Happy
video on.
Friday. Are we doing video, Danny? Do we want to have everybody?
No, I don't think so. I think for this, we'll
Okay.
just keep it. We'll keep it to chat, if that's okay with
Okay.
all of you.
You know, it's a
Hi,
small group.
everyone. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too.
Oh, I love
Made
that.
it.
I love that.
Happy Friday.
I know I have heard from so many people that it has just been the longest week, and I don't know what's going on, but we made it.
That's right.
Awesome.
Um,
So,
yeah.
we had a few questions. I wanted to first welcome everybody. We have Danny Palmer here with us, and I'm here at the soundstage today. We had some questions that were given to us in advance before today's session, and so I definitely want to get to all of those. Danny, for anybody who's joining us for the first time and is new to the soundstage and new to meeting you, do you want to give a quick intro about kind of your role currently and your background?
Sure. I would love to. I think I love that we have a little bit of a smaller group this morning because I think I've met some of you. But hi, my name is Danny Palmer. I'm a creative director based out of California. I did recognize this morning, which is a bitter pill to swallow, that I have been in the creative services field for, this is going to be my 20th year, which is
Wow.
an insane thing to say out loud. But I've been in creative services in creative and production for about 20 years, and I teach commercial voiceover with Jessica at the Soundstage. So if I haven't met you, if I've met you in class, it's great to see you. If I haven't, it's nice to meet you the first time.
Awesome. And I'm
And
Jessica
actually,
Geffen. Yeah. Oh,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, no.
Please go ahead.
Oh, I think I've met almost everybody, but and if not in person, via email. But um, I opened the soundstage a little over a year ago, which is a little crazy for me, but it's been really fun. I've just had a blast sharing voiceover and uh, kind of my knowledge of the industry and experience in this field with a lot of local and regional talent. So yes, and we're in Vancouver, Washington. We're hoping that with this, we'll be able to start doing more remote workshops, remote Q&As, remote classes. So this is kind of our test run, just working out kind of tech stuff and making sure everything goes smoothly so that we can start doing this more regularly. So awesome.
I love it. So I think the way that this is going to work this morning is that we do have some questions that we've gotten from our general Instagram audience, which is wonderful. If you have any questions as we go along, please add them to the chat. Because again, benefit of having a smaller group is we'll have a nice kind of casual, lovely conversation, and we'd love to make sure that if you have any specific questions, especially if we start like going off in different directions, and you have like a something you wanted to like kind of talk about, please add that to chat. But I have a question for you, Jess, to start out with that
Hey, oh boy.
is not on our list that I'm looking at.
Okay.
That I'm curious about. So I'm not an actor. I've never been an actor. Um, and so I've never been. Acting is really fascinating to me because it's the one kind of art form that you need permission to practice, in that you have to go through an audition process, right?
Mm. Mm.
Um, and so I've never gone. I've never personally gone through that audition process before. I've coached a lot of people on auditioning, and I've
Mhm.
worked. I've been the cameraman for many a self tape. Um, but I'm kind of curious about what I can imagine that if you kind of hit a stint of like not getting like get a few gigs in a row, that it can kind of
Yeah.
become like demoralizing, and kind of like bum you out a little bit. So I guess my question to you is, um, when you go through those kind of uh, time periods where you're just kind of like, man, like I haven't booked in a hot minute. Um, how do you kind of get through that slump, or not that it's even really a slump, but how do you keep like the
Yeah.
mental health going when
Ooh.
auditioning is kind of treating you a little salty?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I've had a lot of people say, gosh, I keep auditioning and auditioning and I'm not booking, what's going on? Um, And it's most likely not you at all. It's a hard
Hmm.
industry. When I transitioned from film and theater, which is what I grew up doing and mostly did, to voiceover, I realized that you are in the booth by yourself a lot. You are your own director. So when you get that audition, hopefully you're given some notes from the client about what they're looking for. And you really are kind of on your own and just have to trust that what you're bringing to the audition is what they're looking for. And really, I mean, the best thing that I had to learn, I mean, I audition like crazy. I am always auditioning. It's great practice. It's just part of your job as an actor and as a voice actor. You are auditioning as much as you can. And then hopefully that's going to increase your booking rate, statistically. But if you're not booking, there are some things to look at. It's really just it's part of your job to continue going, so you have to kind of let it go. The best thing is, I asked a very well-known acting teacher and director and actor in Portland, "Hey, how'd your audition go last week?" And he goes, "Never ask an actor that." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And he said, "It's just part of our 9 to 5. It's part of our job. So you do your audition, you give it the best you can, and then you kind of, as hard as it is, try to let it go." Now, it's impossible. We're people, we're humans, we're actors, we're sensitive, we're emotional humans. Um, we're going to get in our head. And so that's when, if I'm really in a slump and I'm just still not booking, I might start taking some workshops. I might take some classes. I might reach out to some industry friends and peers and say, "Hey, would you mind giving me feedback on just a few of my reads? I'm just curious, if something's standing out that I could improve on." Making sure that your quality sounds good. That's something newer after COVID happened, that now maybe they're wanting us to record in our own studios. And so making sure that if they're asking that, that our quality is solid. But really, the best thing I can say is just, as hard as it is, go into the booth just like you would for an on-camera or theatrical audition. Go in the booth, do your thing, leave that booth and leave it behind and keep going forward. But yeah, and have a team of people to rely on when you're in those slumps, because it happens. But just keep auditioning, as hard as that is too. So I hope that answers that. That's been a
I love
common
that.
theme.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that approach a lot. It reminds me. I think Bryan Cranston said that an actor's when he was asked what an actor's job was, and he said an actor's job is to audition. And I was like, yeah, no, actually, that makes
Exactly.
a whole ton of sense. As does having things outside of acting to
Right.
when acting's kind of excuse me, when acting's kind of treating you a little rough, you have other things to kind of spread your legs and rely
Absolutely.
on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I have a question in the chat. We'll go there first. We have Sarah. Let's see. Terrify. Oh, I hear this a lot, actually. Um, it is very strange. I still struggle with seeing myself on camera sometimes. Sometimes I'll be recording in the studio or in the booth, and then I do my playback, and I'm like, whoa, my voice sounds a little higher pitched today than I anticipated, or the opposite. My voice just sounds different today. Is that what I sound like? And so, um, I honestly think the best thing to get more comfortable, and this sounds really obvious, but it works, is the more you watch yourself on camera, the more you hear your own voice behind the mic and on playback, the easier it gets. And it's still tricky watching myself on camera sometimes, especially seeing myself vulnerable on camera it's hard. Um, But you're not alone in that. I think a lot of people, it's hard when they get in the booth too, and they put that headset on and they hear themselves and they're like, whoa, I sound different than I thought I did. And so it's kind of a comfort thing. Yeah, it's more of just practice and getting more comfortable in the booth and more comfortable hearing yourself. And also, I will say something that I always think is funny and just true is we hear our voices differently than other people do. And so, in group settings, listening to your voice and kind of getting an idea of what do you hear in my voice? What are some key words? Like, what would you cast me as? Kind of what is your vocal brand, if that makes sense? Like, just as you would looking at a headshot, how would you cast me if this is my headshot? How would you cast me if you're hearing my voice versus what are those keywords that I would use on my own voice to cast myself and see if it lines up. And if it doesn't, it might not. It's always just a good exercise to kind of go, okay, I'll be thinking of that. And I didn't know my voice sounded that way. This is cool. So, yeah. And then, Danny, did you have any thoughts on that?
Honestly, there was so much good advice in there, Sarah. I hope that that hit home so deeply because there was so much good advice in there. Something that one thing that stuck out in there is that that I want to kind of reiterate is that idea that you listen to your voice in a way that is unlike how everyone else listens to your voice, and it's very similar to the idea that like the kind of concept that you hear kind of thrown around is like no one like when you're being like overly self-critical, like no one's thinking about you as much and as critically as you're thinking about yourself. It's kind of the same the kind of the same approach and vibe there. Not to say that you shouldn't be like self-examining your work. You
Hmm.
should. We all should. But I do think that you do have to hopefully have a healthy set of mental health goggles on when you kind
Yeah.
of start that process and realize, hey, I need to, no one's going to hear me the exact same way that I'm hearing myself. Um, Something that I don't recommend that I did,
Hmm.
now that I think about it, is when I was a little bit younger, I was terrified of presenting work to clients. And what I did was to get over that was to I got into character every single time I had to go up to a Nike person or a Google person or a Microsoft person that I was like, oh, these are adults. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a silly creative. Um, and I just played that role when I was in there until eventually, like the me, the real Danny, and the role I was playing kind of like mashed up together. I do not recommend that, but it did work.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if there's anything to that, but I would say
Well,
just I would say the healthier, more effective thing is to realize no one's listening to your voice the way you're listening to your voice. So to be lovingly self-critical when you're examining your work.
yes, exactly. And something that's interesting that you just said, Danny, that came up yesterday. We do weekly workouts that are really fun at the studio. But yesterday we used a set of scripts that really allowed everyone, everyone was on. And what you said, Danny, kind of giving the audience what they thought and the listeners what they thought we wanted to hear. And I had to say, you know what? Something great came in the middle of that read where, like, that was a great delivery, but you brought you to the script, and that's what made it stand out. And so I do
One,
find, and so that came out a lot yesterday. Just, hey, when the minute that you removed from your mind and your skill set what you thought everybody wanted it to sound like or what you thought it needed to sound like, and you just brought yourself and parts of you infused the script and delivery with your personality, that's what would make me book you on that spot. And that's what made you sound different on that script than the other three people who did it. And so it's a confidence thing, but it's also like fake it till you make it, but also just feel comfortable and confident when you go in bringing what you have to the table, because that's what is going to set you apart than every other commercial read that sounds kind of what you're going to hear on the radio. They want you. So
And
yeah, I hope.
I can honestly say from a director perspective
Mhm.
that we would pay folding money for that untangible
Yeah.
capital YU quality. Like, oh my gosh, if we could bottle that and sell it, we would.
Yes.
Um, I love this question from Dawn. Do you
Okay.
have some good exercises or tips for maintaining consistency? For example, recording an audiobook. I'm afraid I won't sound the same from session to session. I think that's incredible. Incredible question. I
Yeah.
actually don't know the answer to. But I imagine for not even just audiobooks, but any project that is larger, that's multi-session, you don't want to one be redoing all the work you do on the tech side for
Hmm.
time as well as for the output.
Yeah, and it's a great question for commercial work too. I think a lot of people look at audiobooks because it's long form and you're kind of stopping and starting. But for commercials, you might have pickup takes, and you need to make sure that those pickups might happen a week, 2 weeks, a month later. It might be that they change the script 6 months from now to re-air it, and you need to match the previous take. Yeah.
And for animation and
Yep.
um, gaming,
Mhm.
years later,
Oh,
very
yeah. Oh,
possibly.
absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And so the one easy answer is just playback. For video games and animation, especially, the client and engineer are usually on the line with you, and they'll play it back for you over and over, just like, I mean, clips, not at length, but just so that you can be reminded, since it's been 8 years since you recorded that character and they've decided to bring them back, which is exciting. So that happens a lot. They'll do a playback and say, okay, are you feeling good? And then they'll give you feedback too, but that's special because that's when you're in that session already. When you're on your own and you're doing that audiobook, it's up to you. I did a lot. I love audiobooks. I find that I mean, everybody has their own way that works for them. For me, spreadsheets, especially if it's fiction, I will create little clips of the different character voices so that I can reference back to those character voices when I hop in the booth. Like, oh, if Kevin appears in chapter 8 and I haven't done Kevin's voice since chapter 2, I'm not going to remember hours into the book what Kevin's voice may sound like. So I have notes that I keep and spreadsheets referencing timestamps in various audio files. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. It allows you in minutes to just very quickly hear, okay, this is Kevin's voice. Here's my character description. Here are all the clues that the author gave me in the audiobook, and that's going to help. From day to day, what I try to do with audiobooks, I specifically try to make sure that I'm not, if I can avoid it, not starting and stopping mid chapter. And that way, my from start to finish in that chapter, I'm going to sound consistent, and then I'm going to play back kind of the tail end of that chapter before I dive into the next one, if that makes sense. And I do a lot of nonfiction, so it's also about, some mics are more forgiving if you're a little positioned a little more, right side of the mic, left side, or back. Others are not, so it's making sure that you're using the same mic placement for when you leave the booth and come back. Those are kind of the technical things. But really, it's just I do a lot of meditation before I get in the booth because our energy is different as well. And so I'll do some grounding work just when I get in the booth, kind of just to mentally prep. If I've caffeinated, which I don't recommend, but I do, I'm bad. Yeah, and you can tell, I think, on playback. I mean, really, audiobooks can be a little more forgiving with consistency because the listener might be stopping at chapter 5 and then coming back another day at chapter 6. But commercial work, it's a lot of playing back the previous ad and making sure that my new cut will splice in okay. And yeah, I hope that helps. I mean, it's a challenge, and so I think it's up to us as actors to make sure that we're consistent, just like we would on set, or theater day to day, making sure our performance is consistent and grounded each time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's an interesting comparison to traditional theater. I have a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
Do you have so do you have a sense of what it looks like when you're beginning to become inconsistent? Like, or is there like a red flag of some sort that you'd be like, hey, I need to kind of recalibrate my approach here or recalibrate the work a little bit? Like a red flag people should look out for especially for long form or longer term work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tricky. It's hard when you're working on your own to kind of pick up on those red flags. It's usually on playback. So, what might happen typically with audiobooks, they'll have you uploading the chapters to the company, the engineers, as you go, and they will usually reach out and say, "Hey, just letting you know that for some reason you sounded a little, you weren't quite as on mic as you needed to be in chapter 7. So be aware of that." And that's lovely. But when you're on your own, it's a little harder. And so I think making sure to step back and put on that analytical eye, that director hat and listen, not judging yourself, but just listening for consistency. And I mean, at this point, with editing, I've gotten so much more comfortable that I can kind of hear it on playback when I hear a clip. And I'm like,
Yeah,
ooh, I don't think that's going to line up correctly. And so again, it's a matter of just listening over and over, making sure that I'm in the same pitch, making sure that I'm doing the same character voice. Um, and sometimes I'll play things over my headset while I'm recording that's I'm going to be able to hear it, but they're not. And that'll help me make sure that I'm lining up my tempo. Everything's going to splice together. But it's hard. It's not always easy to tell in the moment that what I'm doing in my pickup session is going to line up. And so that takes practice. And that's a good exercise. A lot of people will use something specific called punch and roll recording. And that's helpful because that allows you, especially for long form narration and audiobooks, that allows you to actually hear the playback. And then when you're ready to record, it punches you in so you get to record right after hearing your own voice
yeah, yeah,
delivering
yeah.
that line. And that's also a skill that you have to kind of practice and get better at, just for consistency. But it's a good practice exercise to help with just being able to get more consistent behind the mic.
Right,
Okay,
right.
let's
I love
see.
that. And fun fact that is that technique you just described is essentially how people record modern music, like even modern
Yeah.
rap. So if you ever want to record an album, knowing how to record like that is really good. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I I have a question from Yaniv, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But it's a question that we also got on Instagram. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a couple years of experience under my belt. I have the equipment. I know how to use my DAW to record myself.
Good.
What can I do to break into the VO industry? I feel like that's a question that we get pretty often in class.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what I will say, it's funny, there are lots of strategies involved to getting into it, especially if you're comfortable. You have a recording setup at home. That's awesome. Not everybody does, and that's okay too. Having that comfort level with your desktop audio workstation, whether you're using Audacity, Reaper, Adobe Audition, that's what I use, Pro Tools. There's a ton of them out there. And Audacity is free, so I always kind of push people to go with that. But if you're comfortable with that, you're going to be ready to be auditioning, which is great. And so there are, something called pay to plays out there, voices.com, voice 123, Bodalgo. Actors Access is kind of popping up in the Pacific Northwest a little more right now, mainly for on camera, but there's some voiceover stuff, backstage.com. Those are all called pay to play. Now, a lot of those allow you to have a free profile. And if you get invited to audition from a client on there and you don't pay for a profile, but you get that invite, you're allowed to submit for free to them. And so I recommend people having free profiles. There are debates on whether pay to plays are worth it. And, as a union actor, how great are they? So, just use your best judgment and set your own boundaries for what you're interested in and using as far as those online platforms go. But those are definitely options to just get that practice auditioning. But then the one thing that I will mention that I just like to say, and it's again, one of those hit or miss, it's whether you want to try it, is get creative. One of my students is brand new to voiceover, has the home studio, comfortable with editing, basics and more. And he kind of started to think outside of the box. He's like, I do open mic nights and I go to a pizza place once a week, every week, and they don't have any radio spots. They don't have any commercials. I'm going to produce a commercial for them, pitch it to them, and see what they think. And sure enough, and he did a contract and everything. First of all, I think they gave him free pizza for the year, which is hilarious. But then they also said, we're going to use it
That's
for
free
six
pizza
weeks.
for life. That's free pizza for life work. I take
I
exception
know.
to that.
I know. And so this is just a small, local business. And they loved it. They're running it on their social media. I think they're running it on their website. They're seeing how well it's received. And then they're going to set up a paid contract with him and pay him. And so, one of the biggest voiceover clients, most regularly consistent clients I worked with them for almost 15 years. I got this client because I was supposed to do an on-camera audition for them, and I couldn't make it. I booked a job, which was super exciting. And I was excited to be like, I booked something, so I can't be there. But then I went to their website and I realized that almost every single video that they had used voiceover. And so I was
Hmm.
feeling confident that day. And I just said, I can't be there for the on camera audition, but I noticed that you use a lot of voiceover actors. I'd love to be considered. Here's a copy of my resume. Here's a copy of my demo. And sure enough, they hired me and I worked with them for 15 years. So those are, I know. And I use that as an example because you never know. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is they say, thanks so much, we're not interested. But
Right. Right.
thinking outside of the box, finding creative ways to get work, reaching out to local businesses who you're already affiliated with, that local yoga studio that you teach at or that you go to every week for classes, just being creative. And that's going to help you build your resume as well. And that's going to then help you get samples for your demo, samples not even for a demo, but online profiles, potentially get signed with an agent. And that's going to then help you get more jobs. Two things I'll mention really quickly. ACX for audiobooks, I always mention. Just for especially for practice, it's free. There's no harm in just being on there. It's only audiobook work, nothing else. And then Casting Call Club is free, no strings attached, and that's video game and animation. And the cool thing is, you're not going to make big bucks necessarily on Casting Call Club, but you are going to get resume credits. You're going to get footage and samples of your finished work. It's
Huge, by
just
the
a
way. Huge.
yeah, yeah. So all of this stuff, and it's practice. Even if you're not booking on these sites, it's opportunities to have access to scripts that are actually being used and just be behind the mic working, practicing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was a
Yep.
long answer, but I
There.
hope that was helpful.
No, no, no. A great answer, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think the two things come. It's hard to talk. It's hard to go second one after you because your answers are delightful and really well thought out. None of
Oh
mine
gosh.
aren't, but you're hard to follow.
Oh my
I think
gosh.
two things that come to mind to just kind of like build onto that structure a little bit is that um, there are very few in the world. There are very few full-time voice actors only. Like that 100% of that person's resources and income comes from voice acting. So when you talk about practice and practice auditioning, most likely what you're going to be doing with your voice acting career and artistry is going to be alongside other things that you're doing for your livelihood and for artistry as well. So always be bringing in the voice actor or that part of it to everything else that you do. Make that just like a muscle that you flex whenever you're being approached by another project. And by the way, that's not just people starting out. That applies to everyone in this industry, to be honest. The other thing that comes to mind since since it's there are very few, if any, full-time only voice actors. There's always going to be something else in that person's mix for financial reasons or for artistry reasons or for just pure love of the game reasons that that is to really not shy away from um, the entire idea of social media and being discovered through that means. Now, that's obviously not a strategy per se.
Hmm.
However, um, there are just too many examples of people who have started out in various forms of acting that have moved on to character work only because they got discovered on social media, only because they were kind of like doing this character work as their social media brand, and then they get then discovered for a commercial or for another creative project or for a show or whatever, and get brought into to the vocal acting world that way.
Yeah.
There are just too many good examples of that to ignore it
Hmm.
completely. Um, Again, it's not a strategy for auditioning, but it is a strategy for bringing this part your of your artistry along for the ride for the entirety of your artistry, for the entirety of it, and making sure that voice acting and that vocal work is just always kind of part in whatever you're kind of pursuing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I will be upfront about that. I use it, but what I will say, one of my students and friends, she is just awesome at putting herself out there, and she's brand new, not brand new at this point, but when we first met, she was brand new to voiceover, kind of just playing and seeing how she could make this work. And she started a series just on Instagram of like, I am a voice actor interested in animation. Here's my impersonation of this. And a famous voice actress, Tara Strong, just reposted one of her videos. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And
Look
I
at
mean,
that.
did she
I love it.
yeah, I know. I know. And it's amazing because, no, that's not going to make you famous necessarily overnight. You never know,
No.
but it's just one more tool in that actor toolbox of yours that you can utilize to be promoting your work, meeting others. I mean, especially in the Pacific Northwest, it's a small community. It's a small film community. It's a small voiceover community. You never know. I mean, people meet in a workshop and they go, oh my gosh, they would be great for this. And then the next thing you know, they're getting an audition from someone else about a job, a paid job. And so definitely going to classes, workshops, networking events, that is all part of this actor job. I mean, it's part of putting the work in, is getting your name out there, going to the mixers, bringing your cards, connecting on social media. You just never know. And so it's just part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll respond to Sarah in chat.
Yeah.
Especially when I say it's very if it exists at all, but if it's very rare to be only a voice actor and full time as the only thing your income's coming from, that does not apply just to people starting out. That applies to people who have been
Yeah.
actors for years, who have been in the biggest movies you could imagine. That's just kind of everyone, with a very
Yeah.
few, very rare, heavenly exceptions who worked on The Simpsons in the '90s.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
that's just kind of, and that's actually kind of a good thing. It makes our artistry and the work that we're able to work on that much more broad. Um,
Hmm.
I want to move back to uh, the body and the voice. Um,
Yes.
because we have a question that was asked on Instagram that I'm resonating with, because
Mhm.
I feel like I have a gravelly voice this morning. And it was asked, how do you not physically strain or injure your voice when making certain sustained sounds like a creaky character voice that might be harsh on the vocal cords. So I guess, when the work is asking you to really like push your voice, how do
Yeah.
you keep it? How do I guess like how do you how do you use it responsibly or use it safely, as opposed to what I would do, which is just try to push the air out until it made the sound that I want. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting. A lot of stuff. I get very excited about this stuff because I
Awesome.
yeah, I was doing theater since I was a kid and a lot of physical theater. Um, but when I discovered voiceover work, and yes, I was doing like voiceover audiobook work. I was doing a job for Backstage Magazine. I was doing promotional modeling or being a brand ambassador. Like I was doing tons of stuff to financially make all of this work, plus on-camera stuff if I booked it. But so yes, you're wearing lots of hats as you're trying to make it as a voice actor or audiobook narrator. And that's okay. Um, and so really, the biggest test for me was doing an audiobook all day long where I'm trying to get as much recorded as I can, and then going to the theater for a 4 hour rehearsal in the evening where I am doing a very physically demanding role on stage. I had to play this character who had this obnoxious voice that was very nasal and very like just screeching kind of.
Hmm.
And I was so worried because needed to have my voice solid during the day. One thing that I will
Sure.
say is, even the best, you have to treat, this is your tool. Your body is that is what you're using to produce this work. So taking care of yourself, it sounds so obvious, and I'm not the best at this, but hydration, 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 drinking lots of water, especially if you know you're going to be recording. Um, you know, really timing things out. My voice in the mornings is a little rougher, and I know that about myself. So knowing that if I have a big recording day, I might need to stop talking later at night and make sure that I'm resting my voice solidly at night, and then waking up and really warming up. Even the biggest Broadway stars who are doing musicals on Broadway are still in vocal coaching and singing lessons with their vocal coaches every single week. I promise you. Something that I like to use that I find extremely helpful, and I had a very expensive one, but I recently bought I think it's 35 bucks on Amazon. It's a vocal steamer. And
Hmm.
I just recently had to use it because I had a really big recording day and knew that I was also going to be teaching all day. And so I was worried about my voice. And a lot of actors use those. I use them when I'm on stage. I use that. And it's just distilled water, and you can add, essential oils and that kind of thing. But that steam is going to really help. I drink a lot of hot tea or lukewarm room temp tea, and with lemon and ginger, that's going to be helpful. I use some random tools. This stuff, oh my gosh, it's not great taste. I don't love the taste. It's called Singer
I've
Saving
heard of
Grace.
that.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
I've heard of
Get
that.
that at like Whole Foods, New Seasons, Amazon. But there is a version. This version has alcohol in it, so that can be very drying to your voice. There is a non-alcohol infused version that is less drying and still works really well. There is Entertainer's Secret is another vocal spray. If I have a long day of recording, I'll have this in the booth with me. I'll have the Entertainer's Secret with me on stage, like backstage. I'll just run off and spritz it, and hydration, hydration. Yeah, and then there's, slippery elm lozenges. Those are like the quick tricks. If you wake up and your voice is feeling a little strained, or you have a big day and you're worried about your voice, those are the quick, band-aids that are going to fix it. The biggest thing is making sure that you warm up, making sure that you are not damaging your voice. A lot of people, vocal fry became a thing that was trendy because of influencing and social media and maybe the Kardashians, and so there are definitely ways to avoid that. A lot of clients will say absolutely no vocal fry. And that's where you're just placing your voice in the wrong location. You need to understand vocal placement, instead of having that voice when I had to do that screechy character coming out of my throat. I had to make sure that my voice was forward and I was placing it. I did a lot of warm ups. I released the tension in my jaw, making sure that it's coming from my nasal area and not from my throat and from my
Right.
chest, because that's going to be damaging. That's going to very quickly strain your voice. So that's kind of my long, answer to that. But
Awesome.
yeah, yeah,
No, I love. I mean,
yeah.
sorry, please go ahead.
No, just like you would as a runner doing a marathon, you need to warm up your body. You need to stretch. So if that's doing scales before you go in the booth, I know that I hold a lot of tension in my jaw naturally. I mean, gosh, if I don't warm up, which I'm not always the best at doing, if I don't warm up before I have a long day, the next day my neck and my jaw are just killing me. And so I do a lot of like this stuff. I do a lot of facial massage. I do a lot of like massage here. But yeah, the vocal steamers in a quick, if you need that desperately, those are great. And I think $35, I think, is what I paid for mine on Amazon. So
Right.
not going to break the bank. But yeah, I hope that was
I
helpful.
love that. I also love that, you have Band-Aid solutions and you have, the kind of, the fact that this is a muscle and
Yeah.
this is a tool and, it's not like you ever get done working on it, right? Fashion's never finished. This is always something, regardless of if you're on Broadway or if you're just recording a spot in your booth, that you are always going to be working and training safely, right? Working
Right.
it safely so that you don't damage it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I'm a huge
Um,
fan too of classes. Just that's going to just help
yeah,
you learn how to utilize your voice properly as well.
I love
Yeah,
it. So I wanted to. We have a big question in here
we do.
that I think we were both kind of saving for the end because
I
it's a
know,
big,
I know.
juicy question.
It's a
It's
good
probably gonna be
one.
our last one. So if you do have any
Okay.
other questions that you want us to get to
Yeah.
now, they've been great so far from chat. I just want to make sure if there's anything that's kind of percolated in this hour,
Yes.
and
Okay.
ask them now because Jessica and I can probably talk about this one all day. I do want to say though, for anyone, if you want to hit Dawn wants juicy, we're gonna give you juicy, John. Dawn. Oh my gosh, weird sentence to say on a Friday. Um, if anyone is in the Portland area, we are doing a advanced VO masterclass this coming Tuesday. Is that correct?
Yes, Tuesday the 22nd. We also
Yes.
do have spectator spots available for $10. Kind of like today, you won't be on camera, but you'll be able to sit in. You can chat with us if something comes up, but we might not be able, we're going to be focused on this is our advanced commercial voiceover workshop. So we limit it to six candidates, six candidates. Yeah. No, six fabulous actors. And it is definitely a Friday, y'all. But yeah, this we have a really, really good script for this one. The first time this came across my desk, I was just like, oh my gosh, Danny, we have to use this for something. And it's just really good. It's a really, really, really good practice script. And it's really challenging. Um, and so I'm really excited. And I'm always excited for these, but it's really amazing to connect. We've already had some people signing up and we only have those six spots. So I'd encourage you, if that's something you're interested in, um, reach out. You can get information on Instagram or our website, Linktree. But it's a really great experience, not just for networking, but for Danny will be the industry pro, is what we call him. He will be patched in live during that session, which is really what sessions look like now after COVID. A lot of the recording is done remotely. And so not only is that like a weird experience, but it's something to really get comfortable with as a voice actor, because that is the norm now. And it is weird. I still think it's weird and I do those a lot. So Yeah, and it's you're on video with Danny. The anybody sitting, we have two spaces here at the soundstage, so anybody sitting next door can see and hear Danny, me, and the voice actor behind the mic, and kind of hear everybody getting direction. And I think that's really important. I always learn a lot in acting classes just watching other people take direction, watching other people apply that direction, and yeah, it's just a really fun experience. And so that's from 1 o'clock to 3:30 on Tuesday, the 22nd, here at the Soundstage in Vancouver. And after we wrap up that fabulous session at 3:30, we have a Q&A with Danny. And it's just a time kind of like this to ask anything that came up that day, anything you're curious about in the industry. So they've been awesome, really, really fun. And yeah, so I'd love to see you there.
And what I will say about these advanced classes, because we do, beginner and kind of general classes.
Mhm.
What's really fun about these advanced classes is a ton of booth time because it's
Yeah.
smaller classes in general. Um, more kind of involved work. Like the artistry needs to be that much more sharper because I'm asking a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of this like back and forth. It's very collaborative. You walk away with the finished product as
Mhm.
well as the record of the entire session. So much fun. So much. It's a lot of work, but it's so much fun. So
Yeah.
if you're around, I hope you make it.
Yes.
Um,
All right.
okay, last question. I think for the day. Is the business now overly saturated? I do have some thoughts. I would love to
Yeah.
know yours first.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is interesting. Um, COVID,
And
we
I'll
all know.
clarify when I
Oh
read
yeah.
this really quick. When I read this, I assumed it meant on the talent side.
Yes. Yes. I did too. I did too. So I'm going to take it from that perspective. Because I've had this in my brain all week because it's a tricky one. It's hard. And I want to be honest with what I see as a voice actor and now a coach and now having a studio. Um, It is so COVID changed a lot of things. I was doing a lot of theater professionally before COVID, and I've done one show since. And that's okay. That's a lot of that's on me as well. But I mean, we saw how
Yep.
much it changed the film industry. I mean, every set shut down, and then it was, getting COVID tests for the cast and crew, when we were on set for the day. And one day on set required all that money to get everybody tested, make sure we were safe and masked. And so COVID really changed a lot. Something interesting that happened, and this sounds obvious, but it was a little like just eye opening for me to witness, is every actor realized, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in my home and I can use this time and this endless time locked in my house alone or with my family to set up that closet or my basement as a voiceover studio. I can get a mic delivered, I can get some treatment delivered, and I can learn. I have endless time now to learn how to become a voice actor or an audiobook narrator. So, all of a sudden, the market was flooded with everybody wanting to just use their skill set as an actor on camera, on stage, as an engineer, even to learn how to be a voice actor. The thing I will say is that was amazing and shocking and scary to witness as an actor. But you have to recognize there is only one you out there. This sounds really cheesy, but your voice, I used to get a weird question. I used to be asked all the time from people outside of the industry, why in the world are you sending everybody those auditions that you're finding? That you now you're not going to get that job. And I'm like, well, their voice sounds nothing like mine. I have no idea what the client is looking for. I just want somebody. It would be great if somebody could book it. Your voice, it might sound similar to somebody else's, just like on camera stuff. We used to walk into a room for casting and everybody in the room kind of looked like you. And
Yeah, right.
it's just that idea that like people may sound like you, but you are competing for that role and they are not your competition. You're doing the best you can do and bringing you to it, and that's going to book you. I do not think. My straight answer, if I were to say yes or no, no, this business is not overly saturated. A lot of those people who set up that equipment, they maybe didn't know what they were doing yet because they didn't have the in-person training. They didn't have the classes. And maybe by now it's 2025, maybe now they've gotten that training and they're killing it. But just because you have a microphone, just because you have a quiet space, it doesn't, and just because you've been told your whole life that you have an amazing voice, those aspects are great to have, but those don't make you, a voiceover professional actor. You need that training. You need to be auditioning, and you need to be booking that work to book more work. And so, um, I think, I always say there's room for everyone. If you have that skill set, continue training, take some classes, whether it's an online workshop, networking class, like events to get out there. I mean, it's just honestly, there is a lot of work out there. It's listening to other actors. I listen to a lot of commercials on the radio. It sounds ridiculous, but that's practice. I'm listening to those people. Oh, they booked it. I didn't. What did they want? I didn't know what the client wanted. So
Sure.
I say put yourself out there always. Um, those pay to plays, those are saturated. There are thousands of voice actors on there. But if you are pushing and hustling and getting out there and auditioning, you never know. You might be the voice they're looking for. So, yeah, that's my whole. I know I'm like, I get kind of excited and passionate about it because it's like, it's the same question comes up like, gosh, should I move to LA? It's such a big market there, but there are thousands of people wanting to make it. But if you do the work, you have a better chance. I mean, you can be gorgeous, you can have the perfect look for that role, but if you haven't done the work and put in the training, that's probably not, yes, you might break into the industry magically, but there's so much more to it than that. So that's my spiel. I want to hear what you think, Danny.
Yeah, no, honestly, I love how riled up this question makes both
I
of us
know.
because both of us are clearly like a little pissed at this question, which I love.
Yes, it's a good question.
Not
It's
the not the answering of not that it was
right, right.
asked, but at the yeah everything surrounding the question.
Yeah.
My answer from a director perspective is such a resounding no. It's not overly saturated.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, and I 100% want to reiterate and mirror um, that there is 100% no guarantee of success or even moderate success going into a creative field ever, especially one that is relatively very competitive. It might not be
Mhm.
saturated, but it is competitive. And that doesn't just have to do with like the number of people in it. It has to do with the tone of the work, what it requires to get into the work, and then what the work requires once you're there.
Yeah.
However, I can say that anyone who spent a moment casting anything has seen so many versions of what a group of creatives think the casters want to see. So you have a group of actors coming not as an aggregate because they're coming individually, but there is an aggregate
Mm.
coming to people who are making something, whether that's commercial or a show or whatever, with the idea of like, oh, they're going to want to see this, so I'm going to give them this. And I cannot tell you how entirely disappointing and demoralizing that experience is, because you have given up collaboration, you have given up making artistic choices, you have given up, um, injecting ideas into other creatives' minds and kind of building something with this like beautiful back and forth. And it's hugely demoralized when you're casting, and that's the response you get. What's incredible is when this goes back to there's only one you,
Mhm.
which true, there is only one you. Um, but I think what you mean to that, what you mean by that is that I'm going to limit this to voiceover for now, even though it kind of goes broader than that. But there is something so intoxicating when you are casting for a spot and you hear a version, say it's just a cold read of it, from someone would like to cast, and it is not kind of like overly commercialized or using all of the little vocal hooks for particular lines that is the way it's supposed to be, and instead is this read that feels like very human, very genuine, very grounded in the grounded in both the text and the work, and also grounded in the perspective of what this particular actor thinks is unique about this voice, which is essentially a point of view.
Mhm.
Holy shit, when you have something like that, and it really doesn't take a crazy amount to get there, if anything, it just takes a lot of precision artistry and intellectual honesty. But once you get there, holy shit, I almost don't care if that person is right for the spot or not. I want to work with them and collaborate on them and just get 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 their take to a spot where it can be perfect. It would be easier to do that than to work with generic Read X that just kind of sounds like every other commercial I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
So I think that's a kind of like very long-winded way of saying it's 100% not saturated, because what I really hope for anyone going into an audition is that they trust themselves. They trust
Mhm.
themselves to give the kind of human, honest, genuine read that might not be kind of this idea of perfect that doesn't really exist, but perfect for the moment that they're in and what they kind of respond to in the script.
Mhm.
I can tell you it's easier to get from that place to amazing work than it is from generic,
Mhm.
you know, technically perfect but kind of dull, to amazing work. So yeah,
Yes.
no, I don't think it's
Something I'll
saturated.
say about that specifically that I always find so it like never it will never stop fascinating me, mainly just as an actor, voice actor and coach. But we at our weekly workouts and just as an exercise sometimes, I will give, and at the workshops too, we're all working for the workshops, especially we're all working from the same script, so everybody's coming in with the same copy, and we always say bring what you bring to it, not what you heard Danny tell or what I told the
Yeah,
other person in the booth. And it is so fascinating to basically we do mock auditions in the workshops too, in the weekly workouts, where everybody comes in with the same script, and I will have 10 people read the same script, maybe not even having heard the other people do it, and then we'll do playback, and it is crazy. It's fascinating. It's unbelievable how everybody's perspective on the same text is completely different. That one person's commercial is just a completely different visual, a different energy, a different personality, a different, completely different perspective than the next. And that is the common thing, is all 10 of us are different. And so I use those as examples to say that client, when they're asking, I male or female voice act, I need a voice, male or female, conversational, talking to a friend, not salesy, 18 to 75 years of age. They don't know what they want. They have no
no.
idea. And so when no offense, Danny, but the clients, the creative directors don't always know what they want either. And
Honestly,
then,
if I got that brief, I'd be like, you wrote this on your
yeah,
phone doing something else.
right. But it happens a lot. I see it all the
Sure.
time. That's what I'll get. And so when you hear those 10 actors bringing their different flavor to it, their different perspective, the 18-year-old's perspective compared to the 70-year-olds, they're completely different commercials. They're different sounds, different feels, different vibes, a different audience. So there is room for everybody. Like that's kind of what I use that example for.
Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly, preach, and honestly, that's what happens when you have a creative point of view of what you want to put out into the world, and
Yeah.
irreplaceable. Having that irreplaceable. I
Yes.
cannot believe it's 11 a.m.
I know, me neither. We
That flew
got
by.
through a
That flew
whole
by.
hour. I really,
Well,
really hope. I know we answered questions. We answered all the questions. If there was anything else, I mean, spread the word about, workshops. I'm newer and I'm trying to, make sure that we fill these up because I think there's a lot of interest in voice and excitement around voiceover, and there's a need for it right now, especially in the Pacific Northwest. So I hope that this was helpful for everybody. I appreciate that you were our first round of Q&A guests. So thank you so much for being here.
thanks, everyone. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I'll talk to y'all soon, and I'll make sure to give you a copy of this as well. So we will
Yes,
be
we're gonna
in
upload
touch.
this right after the. We're gonna upload this right after. Thank you, Yanif. Thank you, Dawn.
Yes,
We're
thank
gonna
you,
upload this. Thank you,
David.
Sarah. Right after it's done uploading and all that, we will send you an email so you can have a copy for yourself. So thanks,
Yes,
everyone. Happy Friday.
righty.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a great day.